Listen up, Agent. The following briefing is brought to you by From the Helicarrier, your #1 news source for Marvel's Avengers Alliance, and the Marvel Avengers Alliance Wikipedia.
Welcome back, Agent. As I've shown in our previous briefings, magic is one of the stronger forces that can alter and change the life of those who are involved with it. Science, however, can do just as much, and in some cases, more. Today, we'll be going over a hero who's created by science, whom had no choice but to obey those who wished to see her used as little more than a weapon. Despite this, she has since broken away from those who control her and does her best to live life. Her name is Laura Kinney, but you know her better as X-23. With the realizations of mutant kind, among other beings of fantastic and otherworldly powers, would soon threaten the existence of the normal man, governments across the world have worked throughout the decades to create soldiers of war, superpowered forces under their control that they could help preserve their way of life. One particular organization, known as the Faculty, run by Dr. Martin Stutter, had a single goal in mind: to recreate the process of the Weapon X program, turning willing and unwilling subjects into living weapons. Calling upon mutant geneticist Sarah Kinney, Stutter tasked her into making a clone for them to use based off the success from the original Weapon X program. After 22 failed attempts to properly generate a perfect clone thanks to the damaged genetic sample they had, which didn't contain the Y chromosome of the original subject, Kinney suggested that they make a female clone instead. Though originally denied, the doctor went ahead with the idea, producing a viable subject for them to use. When informed about this, Stutter agreed to move forward with the female clone, though had Kinney act as the surrogate mother for the clone thanks to a suggestion from his confidant and protege, Dr. Xander Rice. 9 months later, X-23 was born. Raised in captivity and trained to be a weapon, X-23 was experimented on at the age of 7 by Rice to activate her mutant healing factor, as well as to coat the claws she had in her hands and feet with adamantium. Seeing that the young girl was not becoming the killing machine that the program desired, Rice deduced that the cause of it was Tanaka, a man who had been training the young girl to fight and had been the only one other than Kinney to show her any kindness. Using an experimental compound known as the trigger scent, which drives X-23 to kill anything in her path, he had the young girl kill Tanaka. After seeing the effect of the scent, Rice and the others used the young mutant as an assassin, selling her skills to the highest bidder. It was later revealed that Rice was to betray them all, convincing Stutter to turn the control of X-23 over to him, only for Xander to send the clone off to kill his mentor and his mentor's family. Rice later revealed to Sarah that he had started Phase 2 of the Weapon X project, creating 27 additional weapons now that X-23 had proven herself to be a success. Dr. Kinney, whom wished not to have another child go through the same things her surrogate daughter had, tasked X-23 to kill Rice and the clones that still lay within incubators. The clone did as she was tasked, returning to Sarah with the plans to escape the project once and for all, only to fall victim to Rice's final plan, exposing Sarah to the trigger scent so that X-23 would kill her. It was as she lay dying that the woman named her daughter Laura. Since then, Laura Kinney has gone through much, including living on the streets and dealing with those who would wish to abuse her. She eventually enrolled into the Xavier Institute after being exposed to the man she was cloned from, Wolverine, and seeing the actions he and his fellow X-Men have taken. From that point onward, X-23 has done her best to atone for the actions she's taken as part of the Weapon X program, and done her best to prove herself a hero. A 35-point PvP hero, X-23 is an oddity among bruisers. Not only does she not really rely among the stat-boosting nature that is common among the class, but she is also nearly completely centered around the bleed-based fighting style. This helps the young clone stand out in battle, however, especially considering she's also among the few PvP heroes whom also has an alternate uniform. Though still limited in availability and currently expired to new agents as of this briefing, the Horseman of War uniform allows Laura to also be a scrapper in battle. As with most alternate uniforms, you can obtain a version that allows X-23 to keep her current class along with gaining the extra abilities. Laura has 2 major passes that allow her great strength in battle. The first is her healing factor. Not only does this allow her to restore health in battle, but it also makes all bleeding and poison effects on her have a reduced duration. She also has about a 25% chance not to be defeated in battle, even if she takes a blow that would reduce her HP to 0. The second passive she has is the Weapon X programming. Every time an enemy attacks, they have a chance to activate the trigger scent. When this happens, X-23 is forced to attack the scented target, unable to target anyone else with single target attacks. She also gains the Berserker Rage effect, which causes her to do increased damage against those with the scent, as well as giving her a chance to do a follow-up attack on any enemy who's bleeding in battle. As the Horseman of War, Laura has a third passive called Warbringer. So long as she remains standing in the fight, she grants the Warbound effect to all of her allies, which gives them a stacking buff every time they are hit by an enemy attack. This buff, known as War Frenzy, will increase their attack and accuracy in battle with each stack going up to 3 times. This buff is consumed upon every attack to do increased damage. Laura's first skill is Snicked. Digging her claws right through the innards of her enemies, she bleeds and ravages them at the same time. It's also capable of shredding an enemy, an effect that only a few heroes other than Laura have. Shredded only appears if the enemy that X-23 attacks is immune to bleeding and instead acts like the effect for attacks that would normally exploit bleeding in battle. It also lowers the enemy's defense stat by 15% per stack. This attack, like all of X-23's attacks, are also adamantium in nature. This means they ignore the defense stat to do more damage, though they cannot pierce through shields. Should you have X-23 in her war outfit, Snicked gains several effects, including inflicting pain on her foes and a unique effect known as Blind Rage. So long as her enemies are inflicted with the rage, they are unable to use any buffing or defensive skills in battle, forcing them to attack at all times. This can be incredibly useful against enemies known for their defensive skills in battle. Blades of Rage, X-23's second ability, is her main one to use. Not only does this make her capable of targeting enemies other than the one who's been trigger scented, but since she bleeds all of her enemies in battle at the same time, this allows her a possible follow-up attack on all enemies at once if she's in her Berserker Rage. Add in the fact that she hemorrhages them at the same time, and you got one of the better AoE bleeding heroes around. She only gets better as War, as she adds in the Ravaged and Pain effects on top of what she had before, turning nearly all of her foes into mincemeat. It should be noted, however, that unlike her first skill, Blades of Rage does not shred her enemies, making it harder for her to use it effectively against bleeding immune foes. Going to her third skill, Made for Walking is Laura's power move. Once the enemy is bleeding heavily from her constant attacks, she quite literally walks all over them with her claws and her feet, doing heavy amounts of damage by exploiting the bleeds as well as having a higher crit chance than normal attacks. This gets even stronger when she's in her role as the Horseman, as she exploits Paragon debuffs as well, making her work even better with heroes who can set her up. Finally, the Assassin Strike embodies Laura's killer nature to its fullest, as well as being the only attack among her skill set that's nearly identical whether she's her natural self or as the aspect of War. This ability is known to many as X-23's kill move, as not only does it have Brutal Strike, but it also has Fatal Blow, making it so that no matter what, someone who is on low health in battle will not be continuing the fight after she's through with them. It's also stealthy in her war aspect, meaning she's capable of avoiding tanks that would otherwise protect her weakened foe. With 2 ISOs that Laura can currently take into battle, the mutant clone finds herself enjoying both of them quite well. The Aromatic EISO grants her the Killer Instinct passive, making it so that every time Laura attacks when she does not have Berserker Rage, she will preemptively apply Trigger Scent to her foes, which in turn causes her to go into said rage. This allows her to go on a follow-up attack frenzy much earlier than normal, as otherwise you'll have to wait around for an enemy to attack and gain the scent. The Puncturing AISO is also quite useful for X-23, as it allows her Blades of Rage to inflict the pincushion effect on her foes. This makes all of the follow-up attacks from her Berserker Rage even more deadly, as well as allowing all of her allies to benefit from the effect with their own follow-up and counter attacks. When I employ Laura in battle, I tend to use her in the Bruiser War uniform, as she doesn't need the Scrapper class buff to get follow-up attacks. I see little need for her to be that class. Her specific ISOs do her well, though I find she can use the closey ISO to great efficiency considering her third skill. Statistical wise, 5 stalwart, 2 violent, and a steady really push her into great power, giving her a massive attack stat that's just going to get stronger with both her class and her war-based passive. X-23 is a very powerful hero to have at your side, one of the most aggressive bleeders around, focused more on killing her foes quickly than drawing the fight out longer to slowly seep away their life. Her Assassin Strike also makes her one of the better heroes to rely upon should you want to assure your enemies are down and out. Should you ever need the aid of someone who is trained to fight, you need to look no further than Laura Kinney.